I never thought applying for a business permit could become the worst racist nightmare of my life. Marcus Williams stands in the county administrative office, being screamed at by white officials in front of dozens of people. But they don't realize that in 30 minutes, this black man will decide the fate of a $500 million development project. The fluorescent lights buzz overhead as sweat beads on foreheads in the stifling heat. Papers shuffle, phones ring, and somewhere in this chaos, a storm is brewing that will shake the foundations of an entire system. What would you do when you're dismissed simply because of your skin color? Where are you watching from? Leave a comment below. The Tuesday morning sun beats down mercilessly on the Fulton County Development Authority building in Atlanta, Georgia. Inside, the air conditioning struggles against the July heat while dozens of people clutch documents, waiting their turn in plastic chairs that stick to bare skin. The queue system appears chaotic, numbers called out of order, some people mysteriously skipping ahead while others wait for hours. Marcus Williams sits in the corner, his dark skin glistening slightly under the harsh fluorescent lights. At 45, he carries himself with quiet dignity, wearing a simple polo shirt and khaki pants that have seen better days. His weathered backpack contains a laptop that survived countless international flights. To anyone looking, he appears to be just another small business owner trying to navigate Georgia's complex development regulations. But apparence de suivre. Marcus is the CEO of Williams and Associates, a multinational investment firm that has just committed to the largest private development project in Fulton County's history. He grew up in these very neighborhoods East Atlanta, where his grandmother raised him after his parents died in a car accident when he was 8. Those early years in the projects taught him resilience, but also something else, what it feels like to be dismissed, to be stared at, to be judged before speaking a single word. This morning, Marcus made a decision that his legal team advised against. Instead of sending lawyers and consultants to handle the permit application for his massive mixed-use development project, he wanted to experience the process himself. "You can't truly understand a system until you've walked through it," he told his assistant before making the drive from his Buckhead office. His plan was simple: complete the paperwork by noon, head back to finalize the investor meetings. He checks his Rolex 7:47 a.m. He's been waiting since the office opened, watching the controlled chaos unfold around him. A Hispanic woman argues with a clerk about missing documentation. An elderly black man counts money with shaking hands while waiting to renew his business license. Children run between the chairs while their parents guard precious documents like treasure. Marcus observes it all with the analytical mind that built his empire. Every system has inefficiencies, he knows. Every process reveals the character of those who run it. What he doesn't expect is how much his own character will be tested in the next few hours in his own hometown. The number display flickers: 47, 48, 49. Marcus holds ticket 52. So close now. He mentally rehearses what he'll need to say, though his credentials speak for themselves. The morning light streams through dirty windows, casting long shadows across the waiting area where hope and frustration mingle in equal measure. At 9:30 a.m., his number finally appears on the screen. Marcus rises, straightening his polo shirt, and walks toward counter 3, where a middle-aged white man with thinning hair and a permanent scowl waits. His nameplate reads, Robert Harrison, to Senior Development Officer. He doesn't look up from his computer as Marcus approaches. "Next," Harrison says, his Georgia accent thick with authority and something else disdain that he's wielded over applicants for decades. Marcus steps forward, placing his documents on the counter with the careful precision of someone who understands the weight of first impressions. The fluorescent light above flickers once, twice, then steadies as if the building itself is holding its breath for what comes next. He had no idea that his simple morning errand would become a battle for dignity in his own hometown. Robert Bob Harrison finally looks up from his screen, and his expression shifts immediately. His eyes narrow as they travel from Marcus's face to his clothes to his weathered backpack. The transformation is subtle but unmistakable professional courtesy replaced by suspicious disdain. "What are you doing here?" Harrison asks, his southern accent thick with condescension. "This is for major development projects, not small business permits. You probably want the window over there for minority business applications." Marcus responds calmly, his own Atlanta accent controlled and professional. "Good morning, sir. I'm here to file documents for a major mixed-use development project. I have all the required paperwork." Harrison's eyebrows rise, clearly surprised by Marcus's articulate speech and confidence, but this seems to irritate him further rather than impress him. "Mixed-use development?" He laughs, but there's no humor in it. "Son, do you have any idea what kind of money we're talking about here?" "Yes, sir. $500 million in total investment," Marcus explains simply, producing his corporate documents. The project includes residential towers, commercial space, and a community center. $500 million? Harrison's fingers drum against the counter as he examines the documents with exaggerated scrutiny. "Let me see your financing documents and investor commitments." Marcus carefully arranges his papers, corporate registration documents, bank statements, investor commitments, and the preliminary development proposal. Each document is pristine, organized in clear plastic sleeves. Harrison snatches them up with unnecessary force. He examines each page with theatrical suspicion, holding them up to the light as if checking for counterfeits. Other people in line begin to notice the delay. Whispers start behind Marcus, though he keeps his eyes forward, maintaining his composure. "Where's your development team?" Harrison demands suddenly. "Major projects like this require architectural firms, legal representation, financial advisors. Where are they?" "I'm the company's chief executive officer," Marcus explains patiently, producing his business cards and additional corporate documentation. "I have a full team, but I prefer to handle the initial applications myself." Harrison studies the business card with obvious skepticism, his pale face reddening slightly. "Williams and Associates?" he snorts. "You expect me to believe you run a company called Williams and Associates? What is this? Some kind of front to sound more legitimate?" The words hit Marcus like physical blows. He's heard variations of this throughout his career, the assumption that his success must be fraudulent, that someone who looks like him couldn't possibly have built a legitimate business empire in Atlanta's competitive development market. The people behind Marcus in line grow restless. A few check their phones and mutter about the delay. Harrison seems to feed off their frustration, using it as ammunition against Marcus. "Look here, boy," Harrison continues, leaning back in his chair with smug authority. "I've been working development in Atlanta for 20 years. I know all the major players in this city, and I'm telling you right now there's no way someone like you is running any half-billion-dollar development project." "Someone like me?" Marcus asks quietly, his voice dropping to a dangerous register. "Don't play dumb," Harrison snorts. "Y'all always come in here with big dreams and fake paperwork, thinking you can play developer. This isn't some Section 8 housing or community development block grant. This is real money, real development, real consequences." The office noise seems to dim as conversations halt and heads turn. Marcus feels dozens of eyes on him, other applicants looking uncomfortable, county staff members watching with mixture of curiosity and secondhand embarrassment. Someone in the back takes out their phone and starts recording. "My documents are authentic," Marcus says, his jaw tightening. "I can provide additional verification if needed." "Additional verification?" Harrison's voice grows louder, attracting more attention from nearby counters. "Listen, son, I don't know what game you're playing here, but this is serious business. We're talking about reshaping Atlanta's skyline, not putting up some corner store in the hood." A gasp ripples through the waiting area. Several staff members look horrified at Harrison's words, but none intervene. Marcus's hands clench into fists at his sides, then slowly relax. 25 years of boardroom negotiations have taught him to control his reactions, but the effort is visible in the tension of his shoulders, the set of his jaw. "Sir, I need to speak with your supervisor," Marcus says, his voice now deadly quiet. "My supervisor?" Harrison laughs harshly, his face now fully flushed with righteous indignation. "You want to complain because I'm doing my job? Because I'm not just rubber stamping whatever fantasy you walked in here with?" He stands up from his chair, his voice carrying across the entire office. "Let me tell you something, boy. I've seen this before. Black folks come in here thinking they can play in the big leagues, wave around some fake documents, act like they belong in rooms with real developers. But I know better. I know what real Atlanta business success looks like. And this ain't it. The silence that follows is deafening. Marcus stands perfectly still for 10 seconds that feel like 10 hours, while Harrison glares at him triumphantly and the entire office holds its breath. Staff members look away in embarrassment, unable to meet Marcus's eyes. But Harrison had no idea he was about to discover exactly who he was dealing with. Marcus reaches into his backpack with deliberate slowness, his movements precise and controlled. He withdraws his iPhone, not the latest model, but one that has carried him through countless business deals. His fingers hover over the screen for just a moment before he taps a number from his recent calls. The phone rings once before a voice answers, "Williams and Associates. This is Jennifer." "Jennifer, it's Marcus. I need you to connect me with Mayor Dickens immediately," Marcus says, his voice carrying an authority that makes several people in the office lean forward to listen. Harrison watches with growing unease as Marcus continues his conversation, his tone becoming more commanding with each word. "Yes, tell him it's regarding the Peachtree Corners development project, the $500 million one we finalized last week." $500 million. Mayor Dickens. The words echo through the office like a gunshot. Conversations stop entirely now. Even Harrison's confident smirk begins to waver. Marcus ends the call and looks directly at Harrison. "You should probably call your department director down here," he says calmly. "Tell him Marcus Williams needs to speak with him immediately. You can't just demand to see the director." "Who do you think you are?" Harrison stammers, his bravado cracking. Marcus doesn't answer immediately. Instead, he carefully returns his phone to his backpack and straightens his polo shirt. The silence stretches uncomfortably long, filled only by the hum of air conditioning and the distant sound of Atlanta traffic outside. "My name is Marcus Williams," he says finally, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. "I'm the CEO and principal shareholder of Williams and Associates International. Last week, my company received final approval from the Atlanta City Council for the largest mixed-use development project in Fulton County's history." Harrison's face drains of color, but he's not ready to believe it yet. That's impossible. You're lying." Marcus pulls out his phone again and shows Harrison the screen, a photo of him shaking hands with Mayor Andre Dickens and several city council members, all smiling broadly in front of architectural renderings of gleaming towers. The timestamp shows last week. "The groundbreaking ceremony for Peachtree Corners is scheduled for next month," Marcus continues, his voice gaining strength with each word. "The project will create 8,000 permanent jobs and 15,000 construction jobs. It's been featured in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Forbes, and the Wall Street Journal as Atlanta's largest private development investment this decade." The office has gone completely silent except for the hum of air conditioning and Harrison's labored breathing. People aren't even pretending not to stare anymore. Several phones are now recording, capturing every moment of Harrison's public humiliation. Harrison stares at the photo, his hands visibly trembling. But you can't be. You look like." "Like what, Bob?" Marcus asks, stepping closer to the counter, using Harrison's first name with deliberate familiarity. "Like a black man from East Atlanta who couldn't possibly have built a successful business? Like someone who doesn't belong in rooms with real developers?" Before Harrison can respond, the sound of rapid footsteps echoes through the office. The department director hurries through the waiting area, his face flushed from running. He's a thin man in his 50s with wire-rimmed glasses, and right now he looks genuinely panicked. "Mr. Williams," the director calls out as he approaches, slightly out of breath. "I am so sorry. I had no idea you were coming here personally. Why didn't you call ahead? We would have fast-tracked everything in my office." The transformation in the office atmosphere is instantaneous and absolute. Every conversation stops. Even the security guard stops his rounds to stare. Marcus can feel the weight of dozens of gazes, but now they carry a very different energy. Harrison looks back and forth between Marcus and the director like he's watching a tennis match in slow motion. His mouth opens and closes without sound, his face cycling through shades of red and white. "I wanted to experience the normal application process," Marcus replies, loud enough for everyone to hear. I believe it's important for developers to understand how business is actually conducted at every level of county government. The director's face grows even more flushed as he glances around the office, taking in the scene, the recording phones, the shocked faces, and most importantly, Harrison's obvious distress. "Mr. Harrison," the director says sharply, his voice carrying authority, "what exactly has happened here?" Harrison opens his mouth, but no words come out. He looks at Marcus, then at the director, then at the crowd of people who are now openly filming. His carefully maintained authority crumbles visibly, replaced by the dawning realization of career-ending consequences. I was just following standard verification procedures." Harrison stammers. "Standard procedures?" Marcus asks, his voice calm but carrying lethal precision. "Is it standard procedure to question whether black developers are capable of legitimate business? Is it standard to assume that someone with my skin color must be running a scam? Is it standard to call grown black men boy and tell them they belong in the hood rather than in your office?" The director's expression shifts from panic to horror. "He said what?" The crowd murmurs and several people nod, confirming they heard everything. Someone in the back calls out, "I got it all on video." Harrison's legs seem to give out and he sinks into his chair. "Sir, I didn't mean, I thought." "You thought what, exactly, Bob?" Marcus asks, leaning forward slightly. "You thought that because I'm black, I couldn't possibly be telling the truth about my business? You thought my success must be fraudulent because someone from East Atlanta who looks like me couldn't earn it honestly?" The questions hang in the air like indictments. The director looks around the office, calculating damage control, while Harrison simply stares at his hands, his career dissolving in real time. Marcus straightens up and addresses the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to witness what just happened here. This is how successful black developers are treated in their own hometown when they don't fit certain people's expectations about what Atlanta success looks like." The balance of power had shifted completely, and everyone in the room could feel it. Marcus turns back to the director with the measured deliberateness of a man who has made crucial decisions in boardrooms around the world. The crowd presses closer, phones recording every word, sensing that history is being made in real time. "Director, I came here this morning with great pride about contributing to Atlanta's continued growth," Marcus says, his voice carrying across the silent office. "I grew up in East Atlanta. I built my business here. I've invested my life and resources into this city because I believe in what Atlanta represents: opportunity, progress, the idea that anyone can succeed regardless of where they come from." The director nods eagerly, sweat beading on his forehead despite the air conditioning. "Yes, Mr. Williams and Fulton County is deeply committed to—" Marcus holds up a hand, stopping him mid-sentence. "Was, past tense." He pauses, letting the words sink in. "What I experienced here today has given me serious concerns about continuing this partnership." The color drains from the director's face, a $500 million development hanging in the balance, cameras recording everything, and he realizes his own career might be ending alongside Harrison's. Marcus continues, his voice growing stronger. "Mr. Harrison, you are no longer welcome to participate in any matters related to my company's development projects. I'm requesting your immediate removal from any files or processes involving Williams and Associates." Harrison jerks upright in his chair. "You can't. You don't have the authority." "Actually, he does," the director says quickly, his voice shaking. "Major developers have significant input into staffing decisions on their projects, especially projects of this magnitude." He looks desperately at Marcus. "Mr. Williams, please, let's discuss this privately." "No," Marcus says firmly. "This conversation happens here, in front of everyone, because what happened here happened in front of everyone." He gestures to the crowd. "These people, small business owners, contractors, community leaders, they all saw how Mr. Harrison treated me. They deserve to see how this is resolved." Someone in the crowd calls out, "That's right." Another voice adds, "Harrison's been treating people like this for years." Marcus raises his voice slightly to address the entire office. "I want everyone here to understand something. What happened to me today happens to people every day, all around this country. People are judged by their appearance, their neighborhood, their accent, rather than their character or their capabilities. He turns back to the director. I'm suspending all development activities with Fulton County pending a complete review of your staff training and anti-discrimination policies. I want every employee in this department retrained on professional conduct and civil rights compliance. I want new oversight procedures implemented, and I want a complete audit of how minority developers and business owners have been treated by this office. The crowd murmurs approvingly. Several people nod, clearly having witnessed or experienced similar incidents. Phone cameras continue rolling as the story spreads across social media in real time. Furthermore, Marcus continues, I'm establishing a fund $1 million to provide free legal assistance to any minority business owner who experiences discrimination in Fulton County government offices. And I'm creating a hotline where people can report incidents of bias or unprofessional conduct by county officials. The director looks like he might faint. Mr. Williams, surely we can. Can what? Sweep this under the rug? Transfer Harrison to another department where he can discriminate against different victims? Marcus's voice carries genuine anger now, controlled but unmistakable. Director, you have a choice to make. You can either lead meaningful reform, or you can watch Fulton County become known as a place where successful Black entrepreneurs are treated like criminals in their own hometown. As if on cue, someone in the crowd calls out, "This is already viral on Instagram." Harrison finally finds his voice, tears streaming down his red face. Mr. Williams, please, I have a family. I've worked here 20 years. I didn't mean. I'm sorry. Marcus looks at him for a long moment, and his expression softens slightly. Mr. Harrison, I believe you are sorry, but sorry doesn't undo the damage. Sorry doesn't erase the humiliation you tried to inflict on me, or the message you sent to everyone in this room about who deserves respect based on their skin color. He pauses, considering his next words carefully. However, I'm not interested in destroying your life. I'm interested in changing the system that allowed your behavior to go unchecked for 20 years. If you're genuinely committed to learning and changing, there might be an opportunity for you to be part of that change, but not in a position where you have power over other people's dignity. The director seizes the opening. Yes, absolutely. Mr. Harrison will be reassigned to training duties, under strict supervision. And Mr. Harrison, Williams, what would you need to see to restore confidence in our partnership? Marcus pulls out his phone and shows the director a notes app with a detailed list. I started writing this while Mr. Harrison was explaining to me that I don't know what real Atlanta business success looks like. Mandatory diversity training for all staff. Anonymous feedback systems for service quality. Regular audits by independent civil rights organizations. Clear consequences for discriminatory behavior. And a formal public apology not to me personally, but to the Atlanta business community, acknowledging what happened here and committing to do better. The crowd listens intently as Marcus outlines his demands. Several business owners in the audience applaud when he mentions the anonymous feedback system and independent audits. Most importantly, Marcus adds, I want to see a public commitment that Fulton County welcomes developers and business owners of all backgrounds, races, and neighborhoods. I want policies that ensure what happened to me today never happens to anyone else, whether they're from Buckhead or East Atlanta, whether they're Black or white, whether they grew up with money or fought their way out of poverty. The director nods frantically. Absolutely, Mr. Williams. Everything you've outlined. We'll begin implementing immediately. Marcus looks around the office one more time, making eye contact with as many people as possible. Change doesn't happen overnight, he says to the crowd, but it starts with moments like this, when we decide that discrimination and prejudice have no place in how we treat each other, especially in our own communities. He turns back to the director. I'll give you 30 days to implement these changes. Then I'll return unannounced again to see how things have improved. If I'm satisfied with the progress, we'll resume discussions about the development project. The crowd erupts in spontaneous applause. Several people approach Marcus to shake his hand and thank him. Business owners share their own stories of discrimination. Phones continue recording as people share the story on social media in real time. What started as one man's humiliation had become a catalyst for systematic change in his own hometown. 1 month later, Marcus sits in the renovated conference room of the same Fulton County building where he was humiliated. The room has been completely transformed. New furniture, updated technology, and most importantly, a large plaque on the wall reading Equal Opportunity and Professional Service Standards with the county seal. A new officer enters with a warm smile and impeccable professionalism. A young black woman, perhaps 35, with kind eyes and confident demeanor that speaks to proper training and genuine respect for her role. "Mr. Williams, welcome back," she says, extending her hand for a firm handshake. "I'm Angela Thompson, the new Director of Developer Relations. It's an honor to meet you. Your permit applications have been processed and approved with priority status. Everything is ready for your signature." Marcus nods appreciatively, but his attention drifts to the window. From here, he can see the waiting area where he sat 1 month ago, clutching his documents and hoping for fair treatment in his own hometown. The irony isn't lost on him. He's now in the executive conference room, looking down at the space where ordinary people still seek basic services from their local government. "Miss Thompson," Marcus says, "before we proceed, I'd like to ask you about the changes that have been implemented." "Of course," she replies confidently. "All development staff completed 100 hours of intensive diversity and anti-bias training, conducted by experts from the Southern Poverty Law Center and local civil rights organizations. We've installed anonymous feedback systems throughout the building. The discrimination reporting system you recommended is already active. We've received 37 reports in 1 month and addressed each one personally." Marcus raises an eyebrow. 37 reports in 1 month? People were afraid to complain before, Thompson explains, especially minority business owners and residents from East Atlanta, South Fulton, and other predominantly black communities who felt they had no recourse against discriminatory treatment. Now they feel safe to speak up. Most issues were similar to what you experienced: assumptions based on appearance, condescending attitudes, unequal treatment based on zip code, but we've used each report as a learning opportunity. And Mr. Harrison? He's enrolled in the county's rehabilitation program, intensive training on civil rights, cultural competency, and the history of discrimination in Atlanta. He's also required to complete community service in East Atlanta, working with small business development programs. Whether he'll be allowed to return to any customer-facing role depends on his progress and genuine commitment to change. Marcus considers this, swirling his water glass thoughtfully. Through the window, he watches people entering and leaving the building, black and white, rich and poor, from Buckhead and the West Side, all seeking services from their local government. "You know," Marcus says quietly, 35 years ago, when I was 10 years old, my grandmother brought me to this very building to apply for a permit to sell vegetables from her garden at the farmer's market. The clerk looked at us, an old black woman and a little black boy from the Techwood Homes projects, and told us we probably didn't understand the requirements, that we should try the welfare office instead." Thompson listens intently, her expression compassionate but not pitying. "My grandmother had been growing vegetables for 40 years. She understood soil, seasons, business better than most. But all that clerk saw was our zip code, our skin color, our clothes from Goodwill. We left that day without the permit, and my grandmother never tried again." Marcus stands and walks to the window, his reflection ghost-like against the glass. "I spent decades building my company, earning respect, accumulating wealth and influence. But you know what? When Bob Harrison looked at me last month, all he saw was that 10-year-old boy from Techwood Homes who supposedly didn't belong." "But you changed everything," Thompson says softly. "The entire county government is implementing your recommendations. The Board of Commissioners passed a resolution, citing your case as a turning point for how Fulton County serves all its residents." Marcus turns back to face her. "That's the thing about systemic discrimination, Miss Thompson. It's not always burning crosses and hate crime. Sometimes it's just the quiet assumption that certain people can't possibly be as successful, as capable, as worthy of respect as they claim to be." He returns to his seat and picks up the pen to sign the development documents. This project will create thousands of jobs and transform East Atlanta. But more importantly, it will serve as a symbol that success in Atlanta comes from all neighborhoods, all backgrounds, all zip codes. As Marcus signs each page, Thompson watches with evident admiration. "May I ask you something personal, Mr. Williams?" "Of course." "When Mr. Harrison when he said those things to you, weren't you tempted to just destroy him immediately? You had the power to end his career with a single phone call." Marcus sets down the pen and considers the question. "I was furious," he admits. "For about 30 seconds, I wanted to unleash 35 years of accumulated frustration on him, but then I realized something. Destruction without purpose is just revenge. Destruction with purpose becomes reform." He closes the folder of signed documents. Bob Harrison didn't wake up that morning planning to be racist. He acted based on assumptions and biases that Atlanta society taught him over decades. Destroying him personally wouldn't change those underlying assumptions, but creating consequences, demanding better standards, requiring training and accountability that changes the system that created his behavior in the first place. Thompson nods thoughtfully. "The mayor wanted me to tell you this project isn't just about economic development anymore. It's become a symbol of Atlanta's commitment to being a city where everyone truly has opportunity." Marcus stands, extending his hand for a professional handshake. "Miss Thompson, I look forward to working with your reform department. But more than that, I look forward to seeing how Fulton County continues to evolve into a place that truly serves all its residents." As they shake hands, Marcus glances one more time toward the waiting area visible through the window. Different people now, but the same hopes, the same vulnerabilities, the same basic human need for dignity and respect from their local government. "You know what the real victory is?" Marcus says as they walk toward the door. "It's not that I got my permits or that Harrison faced consequences. The real victory is that the next young entrepreneur from East Atlanta, the next grandmother from the West Side, the next person who doesn't fit someone's narrow definition of Atlanta success, they'll be treated with the respect that every citizen deserves from their government." Outside, the Atlanta sun shines as intensely as it did 1 month ago, but something fundamental has shifted. In county offices across Metro Atlanta, new training programs are beginning. Anonymous feedback systems are collecting honest assessments of service quality. And on social media, the story of Marcus Williams continues to spread, inspiring people to demand better treatment and to examine their own biases about who deserves success. Marcus walks through the parking lot to his car, past the same spot where he stood 1 month ago, humiliated in his own hometown, but determined not to let that humiliation define him. He checks his phone, dozens of missed calls from national media outlets wanting to interview him about the incident that's now being called a watershed moment for civil rights in local government. He smiles and puts the phone away without returning the calls. The story will tell itself. The changes will speak louder than any interview. As he drives away from the county building, Marcus thinks about the development project that will soon break ground, the thousands of jobs it will create, and the message it will send to Atlanta and beyond. Success comes from all neighborhoods, speaks with all accents, and challenges all assumptions about who deserves opportunity. Sometimes the most powerful response to being told you don't belong is to transform the entire system. Sometimes the best revenge against discrimination is building a world where it can't survive, starting right in your own hometown. The boy from Techwood Homes had grown up to transform Atlanta's entire approach to serving its citizens. And that, Marcus realized as he headed back to Buckhead, was a story that would echo through Atlanta government for generations to come. 3 months later, Marcus returns to Fulton County for the groundbreaking ceremony of the Peachtree Corners development. The event draws hundreds of attendees, county officials, state legislators, community leaders, and media representatives from across Georgia. But what strikes Marcus most are the changes throughout the county building diverse staff at every level, visible civil rights training materials, and a palpable shift in how employees interact with residents from all backgrounds. Angela Thompson approaches him during the reception, tablet in hand. "Mr. Williams, I wanted to show you the latest satisfaction scores from our department, and the 8 other county offices that have implemented your protocols. Marcus reviews the data, consistently high ratings across all categories, with specific praise for professional conduct and equal treatment. But what catches his attention are the comments written by residents from every zip code in Fulton County, East Atlanta, Bankhead, College Park, and others who previously felt unwelcome in their own government buildings. "We're serving the entire community now," Thompson explains. "Word has spread throughout Metro Atlanta that Fulton County offices are safe spaces for all residents, regardless of background. People drive from other counties because they know they'll be treated with dignity." An idea forms in Marcus's mind. "Miss Thompson, would you be interested in leading a new initiative?" She looks intrigued and eager. "I'm thinking about establishing a foundation local government offices across Georgia that commit to the highest standards of civil rights, compliance, and community service. It would involve training, certification, regular audits, and knowledge sharing between counties." Marcus looks directly at her. "I need someone who understands both good government and community needs. Someone who can speak authentically about Atlanta values because they've seen what happens when we live up to them." Thompson's eyes light up with excitement. "Mr. Williams, that would be an honor. To help ensure that what happened to you never happens to any Georgian in their own government building, or anyone seeking services," Marcus adds, "because how local government treats people reflects who we are as a community." The sun is setting over the construction site, casting long shadows across the red Georgia clay that will soon become the foundation of thousands of jobs and countless opportunities. Marcus watches the interplay of light and shadow, thinking about how dramatically this landscape and Atlanta's civic culture has evolved over the past 3 months. "There's something else," Marcus adds, turning back to Thompson. "I've decided to establish a scholarship program, full college funding for students from underrepresented communities who want to study public administration, urban planning, or civil rights law. I want to ensure that Atlanta government reflects the full diversity of our city." As the ceremony winds down, Marcus reflects on the unexpected turns his life has taken since that sweltering Tuesday morning. The humiliation he experienced had transformed not just policies and procedures within Fulton County government, but hearts and minds about what it means to serve all of Atlanta's citizens. "Mr. Williams," Thompson says as they walk toward the parking area, "there's one more thing. The Georgia Municipal Association wants to implement your protocols statewide. They're calling it the Atlanta Standard for Government Excellence." Marcus pauses, his hand on his car door handle. The Atlanta Standard. His name attached not to a moment of humiliation, but to a movement toward dignity and equal treatment in his beloved hometown. The boy from Techwood Homes could never have imagined such a thing. As Marcus drives away from the groundbreaking ceremony, his phone buzzes with notifications, messages from civil rights organizations, thanking him for his courage, invitations to speak at public administration conferences, and interview requests from journalists covering the story of transformation in Atlanta government. But the message that matters most is a simple text from Mayor Dickens. "The Fulton County story is inspiring changes statewide. 4 different cities have reached out asking for consultation on anti-discrimination policies. You've started something much bigger than a development project. You've started a movement toward better government for all Georgians." Marcus pulls over and looks back at the construction site, now illuminated by floodlights, as work continues into the evening. The sound of machinery and voices carries across the landscape, the sound of building, creating, moving forward, representing the best of what Atlanta can be. He thinks about all the moments in his life when he was told, explicitly or implicitly, that he didn't belong in Atlanta's success story. Each rejection had been painful, but collectively they had forged something unbreakable within him, not bitterness, but determination. Not hatred of his city, but love strong enough to demand that it be better. Sometimes the greatest victories come not from avoiding discrimination, but from transforming it into something constructive. Sometimes the most patriotic response to being told you don't represent your community's values is to force that community to live up to those values. Marcus starts his car and heads toward Buckhead, already planning his next visit to the development site, already thinking about the students who will benefit from the scholarship program, already envisioning a future where Atlanta government truly embodies the equality and opportunity that the city promises to all its residents. The boy from Techwood Homes had created a government standard where everyone could be treated with dignity, and that transformation would echo through Atlanta and beyond for generations yet to come.